The idea was borrowed from the dark hero of an American comic. This was all relic gear. It was 2 tiers below his usual power level, but he could think of several good reasons not to bring overly powerful items to this place. So he had stopped there. As Aints rotated his shoulders and relished the freedom he felt after taking off his armor, Narbril asked him a question. What should we do with that unpleasant lady from before? Oh, you mean the one whose potion broke? We shouldn't have to worry about her. If something important to me got broken, I'd fly into a rage remembering the changes in his psychology since he ended up in this body. He faltered for a moment and then continued, myself, probably. I was careless, so of course you would blame me. But that only happened as a result of a stupid human committing so foolish an act as picking a fight with you, Supreme One. That man is surely the one to blame. That's true, but I was the one who threw him. In this case, we should practice tolerance and forgive. Plus, we ray in this city to build reputations as Momon and Nabe, beings from this world. If word got out that we couldn't even afford a potion, we'd be off to a bad start. Narbril didn't seem completely on board with his way of thinking, but she acquiesced with a low bow. Plus, she was more experienced than us. We should probably try to keep the more experienced adventurers from getting their pride hurt. Momonga toyed with the other chain around his neck. These are just metal plates, so I wonder if it's possible to counterfeit them. Well, I'll let the guild worry about that. They hang as a kind of dog tag. Plates with a proof of an adventurer's ability level: copper, iron, silver, gold, platinum, mithril, orichalcum, or adamantite. The latter metals indicated a better reputation. Higher ranks could not only select more difficult jobs, but were also better compensated. The system was designed to avoid unnecessary adventurer deaths. Aints had just registered with the guild, so he had a copper plate, the lowest rank. That woman was an iron plate. Showing a minimum level of respect for superiors is one of the ways to get ahead in any society. But Lord Aints, adamantite is such a soft metal. You should be a prismatic ore like apothecara or scarlatite. They must all be blind. Narbril was listing highly valuable metals from Yggdrasil. Aints narrowed his eyes and brought up something that had been bugging him. Nabe, just in case, you should call me Momon while we ray here. Understood, Lord Momon. You really want to have this conversation again? It's just Momon. My apologies, Mr. Momon. Mr. Momon sounds pretty dopey. Well, whatever. If Momon is too hard, then at least say Mr. Momon. Got it? Yes, Mr. Momon. She bowed low again and Aints put a couple fingers to his forehead. She doesn't understand why I am making her say Momon. I guess she is a little slow. Well, at least there is no one who can see us right now. I'll let it go for the moment. For now, let us just discuss our plan of action. My lord. She dropped to one knee and lowered her head, the posture of an attendant awaiting orders from her master. What am I gonna do with her? They were fine now, because he had locked the door the moment they walked through it. But he had the feeling people would talk if they witnessed a scene like this. And why doesn't she understand why I want her to call me Momon? I am pretty sure I explained it on the way here. He began to speak, half resigned. We're going to build reputations, working undercover as famed adventurers in this city. One reason for that is to obtain information that adventurers, powerful people have. I want to put a special emphasis on rumors about other Yggdrasil players like me. Once we earn a higher ranking plate, we'll be offered jobs appropriate to that level, and the information we'll acquire will probably be more accurate and useful. So for the time being, our top priority is to succeed as adventurers. As Narbril acknowledged this, Aints began to list the pending issues, but we already have some problems. He took out his small leather pouch, loosened its mouth, and emptied it into his hand. There were coins, but not very many. There wasn't a glimmer of gold to be seen. For starters, we have no money. He had handed over potion in the dispute earlier for a few reasons. One was that he wasn't confident he could settle things with cash. It would have been too pathetic to say he didn't have any money back there. Narbril looked at him with a dubious expression. Aints added, well, I mean, we have money, but most of it is Yggdrasil gold. I want to only use that as a last resort. But why? Didn't you already confirm that Yggdrasil coins have monetary value here? That is true. When I went to Khan, the gold coins, they told me one was worth 2 of their gold coins used for exchanges. But if I use Yggdrasil gold in this city, there is no telling what might happen. If we were not careful, it could basically be the same as announcing that there is a Yggdrasil player here. I do like to avoid that while we still don't know this world very well. Players are beings with the same rank as my lord, but they are also recalcitrant rabble who once raided Nazareth. Aints furrowed his non-existent brow at her use of my lord, but he decided to say nothing for the same reason as earlier. Yes, we need to be on our guard against them. He, Aints Ulgaun, had reached the highest level in Yggdrasil. 100 players had done so, though it wasn't such a rare thing. Among them, Aints knew he was on the higher side of mid-ranking, power-wise. That was because instead of taking only classes suited for an undead caster, he had chosen some for the role-playing element, regardless of power. Taking into account his multiple god-tier items and how many cash shop items he had, he would probably land on the more powerful side of average, but there would always be someone stronger. That was why he had to avoid being discovered by other players. If he rushed into the wrong battle, there would be many opponents he couldn't beat. Players were originally humans, so many of them would likely side with humans. If players like that came up against someone like Albedo, who saw humans as lower life forms, they might decide the Great Tomb of Nazareth and Aints Ulgaun were enemies of mankind. That's why he decided it was dangerous to be out and about with her. But I had no idea Narbril would be the same way. Aints wasn't an enemy of mankind. However, he wouldn't hesitate to kill humans if necessary to achieve his goals. Still, he wanted to avoid head-on confrontations with players. In that sense, it really was a waste. What was that we lost Nigun so fast? He probably had a lot of information, but we finished him off with a simple question. Of the members of the Sunlit Scripture he had captured in Khan, only 10 were still alive. The others had died during their interrogations. They became fodder for Aints' undead summons. He recalled the information they forced their prisoners to share. He laughed at himself. Most players would probably support the slain theocracy. The slain theocracy was a religious nation. They believed in the 6 gods who appeared 600 years earlier. According to the Sunlit Scripture members, it was a country working toward a world where weak humans would prevail over the other more powerful races and prosper. If players had retained their humanity, they might approve of the slain theocracy's teachings. This world was not one where humans were top of the heap. Here, humans were considered one of the inferior races. Yes, they had built grand cities like this one on the plains, but their living on the plains was simply a sign of their weakness. In fact, the plains was a dangerous place to be. There was nowhere to hide. It was easy to be spotted by enemies. The reason they had chosen to settle there was that, for a fragile race without eyes to see in the dark, stronger legs, or better stamina, there was nowhere else besides the plains where they could build a habitat for themselves. There were races more physically able than humans, with superior civilizations, but they hadn't been able to conquer the continent. 5 centuries earlier, when the 8 kings of avarice tried to rule it, the ensuing struggle diminished racial power. If that hadn't happened, humans probably would have been wiped out. Arriving in such a world, one would probably want to side with the humans. That's precisely why Aints was keeping his distance from the slain theocracy. He was wary of other players. Anyhow, as far as money goes, I had you bring those swords the fake knights from the slain theocracy had, because I figured we could sell them in a pinch. But I'd like to find some work before it comes to that. Understood. So you're saying we'll go to the guild again tomorrow? Yes, I'd like to tour the city and gain some knowledge, but that will have to wait until we earn some money. Very good, my lord. I as a combat mage shall provide my full support. Great. Thanks, Narbril. Satisfied with Narbril's deep bow, Aints cast some magic and clad himself in illusion and armor. I am going to go have a look at our surroundings. You stand by here. I should go with no thanks. It'll just be a quick peek. I heard there is a huge graveyard. I'd like to see that if possible. The reason I am leaving you here is in case any intruders show up. Make sure not to let your guard down for a second. So far, I don't think we've made any slip-ups, but it's not an exaggeration to say we're in enemy territory. Stay alert. Yes, my lord, and take care of our periodic check-in. Aints left the room and Narbril heaved a sigh. She massaged her temples up and down. Her eyes had been sharp, but now they drooped as the tension left her expression. Even her ponytail sagged as though it too lacked energy, but she hadn't forgotten her Supreme Master's orders. She focused her senses to see what was happening outside the room. As a caster, it was difficult to mimic a thief's abilities. She compensated by using a trick of hers: rabbit ears. When When she cast the spell, a pair of cute rabbit ears sprouted from the top of her head. They began to twitch and pick up sounds in the area. Rabbit ears was one of 3 spells Yggdrasil players called bunny magic. The other 2 were rabbit-s foot, which upped the caster's luck, and bunny tail, which slightly reduced the amount of enmity they generated. These spells were ridiculously popular. When a female character cast all 3, her outfit would change. Narbril didn't need the other 2 at the moment, so she didn't bother. This was one of the few spells she had learned that wasn't for combat. After listening enough to determine the coast was clear, she cast message. A woman's pretty voice echoed in Narbril's head almost instantly, as if she'd been waiting for the call. Narbril Gamma, is something wrong? No, just checking in. Narbril was speaking with Albedo, captain of the Great Tomb of Nazarik's Floor Guardians. After touching on every detail of their current situation, she said what she knew Albedo would want to hear. Lord Ain't said there is no one he trusts more than you. Tee-hee, a strangely excited squeal echoed in Narbril's head. Great, great. Good girl Narbril, keep on talking me up. That's an order from the captain of the Floor Guardians. Narbril wondered if that was worth giving an order over, but she realized Albedo was fighting a battle with Sholtia to decide which woman would serve by their lord's side. When she thought of it that way, an order made perfect sense. All the while Narbril was coming to understand this, Albedo's voice kept ringing in her head. While Sholtia is out, I'll be gently closing the gap between Lord Aints and me. He may be an impregnable fortress, but if I strike with wave attacks and establish a bridgehead, he must one day fall. And on that glorious day, Sholtia will cry, oh so bitterly. Narbril's brow creased slightly in response to Albedo's delighted screams. As might be expected, the captain was a bit of a hassle when she got this worked up. Sounding so cheerful she seemed like she might start skipping, Albedo plotted quietly how she'd have to do this and that. But all at once her voice grew serious. But why are you helping me? What's the reason you chose to support me and not Sholtia? Are you trying to get something? It's simple. If I were asked who was worthy to sit at Lord Aints' side, you or Mistress Sholtia, I would answer that you are, tee-hee, wonderful. Now here's a girl who can see Nazarik's future, the big picture. Impressive. On top of that, Yuri isn't very fond of Mistress Sholtia. Ah, Yuri Alpha, I see, interesting. So is it safe to consider the others my allies as well, do you think? Narbril pictured Deputy Leader Yuri Alpha and her other teammates one by one as she answered. I am not so sure. Lupus Regina is more on your side, but Solution probably leans more toward Mistress Sholtia. I don't know about Intoma or Shizu, they don't seem particularly attached to either side at the moment. Do you think there's a way to win Solution over? I imagine it would be difficult. She and Sholtia have some things in common, oh right. Their bad taste, huh? Narbril confirmed, cocking her head in her inability to understand Solution Epsilon's twisted hobby. Narbril, too, considered all humans save one lower life forms, but that didn't mean she wanted to torment them. If they got in her way, she would kill them, and if they made trouble, she would kill them, but that didn't mean she'd want to go out of her way and take all kinds of time to do it. Well, we can't do anything about that. Very well, let us try to get the other girls in my camp. I'll start with Intoma and Shizu. That sounds good. Solution and Intoma both enjoy eating humans, so it's possible that if we can get Intoma to ally with you, Solution might follow. Got it. Then to change the subject, will you give me more details about how Lord Aints, my beloved, is doing? Yes, mistress. And so the check-in with Albedo livened up. There were some brief tiffs. For example, Albedo raised a bizarre war cry when she heard that Narbril and Aints would be sleeping in the same room. Narbril had to cast the same spell 4 times. Aints was somewhat disgusted when he returned. But that's another story. Feeling the air had taken on a color, Brita sniffed several times like a dog. The faint green component of the smell was probably not her imagination. It was some chemical or mashed plant. That told her she was nearing the block she was aiming for. Brita followed the road and reached the block where the smell was even stronger. Looking both ways, she stopped before the largest house on the street. The other houses in the area were constructed with a store in the front and a workshop in back. This one was more like a workshop, and another workshop, and yet another workshop. She read the letters on the wooden plate hanging from the door. She also read the sign out front. This confirmed she was in the right place. She pushed open the door. The bell attached to the top jangled loudly. She jumped. Inside seemed like a sitting room where discussions with customers could take place. 2 sofas faced each other in the center of the room. Along the walls were shelves lined with things that appeared to be documents. There was a houseplant in the corner. The moment Brita stepped inside, a voice called out to her. "Hello there." It was a man's voice. No, it sounded too young. When she looked over, there was a boy standing in the back of the room. He was wearing a beat-up work apron. It seemed likely to give off a pungent odor, judging from all the mashed plant material sticking to it. His long blonde hair hid half of his face. She couldn't tell how old he was, but judging from his height and voice, he was probably in the middle of a growth spurt. Brita had an idea who he might be. Yes, his grandmother was renowned, but this boy could also be counted among Rantle's celebrities due to his talent. "Enfira Baylor?" "Yes, that's me." He nodded and then asked, "What can I do for you today?" "Oh, just a moment." Brita took the folded paper the innkeeper had given her from her pocket. She handed it to the boy, who had come closer. He opened it and began reading carefully. "So this is, I see. Then could you show me the potion?" Enfira took the potion she'd taken out. He raised it up to the level his eyes must have been under his hair. Something in the atmosphere changed. Enfira parted his bangs, exposing regular features. It seemed certain girls would fuss over him in the future. He still looked so young, but now a sharpness appeared in his expression. His gaze was incredibly keen, despite the casual tone he had taken earlier. He blinked several times, and his excitement was visible in his eyes. Then he rocked the bottle a few times and nodded once. "Excuse me, there isn't much I can say about it at this point, so would you come this way?" Brita assented, and followed Enfira to a messy room. Or it only seemed messy because she didn't have the knowledge to understand it. On a table were round-bottom flasks, test tubes, a still, mortars, funnels, beakers, burners, a balance, strange jars, and other various pieces of equipment. The walls had shelves full of countless medicinal herbs and ores. The whole room assaulted her nose with a singular reek that seemed harmful to her health. The occupant of the room turned to glare at the 2 intruders. It was an extremely old woman. She had a wrinkled face and wrinkled hands. Her hair was cropped to shoulder length and was pure white. Her work clothes had even more green splotches than Enfira's. They smelled strongly of herbs. Entering the room, Enfira called out, "Grandma, what is it? What is it? I can hear you without all the shouting. My ears are doing just fine." Enfira had only one grandmother. This was the woman said to be the best apothecary in the city, Lizzie Baylor. "Look at this." Lizzie took the bottle as he thrust it into her hands. Her perceptive gaze was very sharp. Brita was almost compelled to brace herself. She sensed that she was in the presence of a powerful veteran, and it wasn't just her imagination. Apothecaries needed to use magic when making medicines. So, the better the apothecary's reputation, the higher tiers of magic they could use. That meant that as the best apothecary in Rantle, Lizzie's individual combat ability surpassed Brita's. This she brought it. The legendary, it can be God's blood. "Hey, what is this thing?" Brita blinked. That was her question. "This potion, it shouldn't exist. Where did you get it? Is it from the ruins?" No, I mean you're not very good at making yourself understood, child. Just spit out what's asked of you. Where did you get it? It's not like you stole it, right?" Brita's shoulders jumped. She felt like she was being scolded even though she hadn't done anything wrong. Grandma don't frighten her. "What do you mean, Enfira? I am not frightening her one bit." "Right. Nope, definitely scared," Brita wanted to say, but of course she couldn't, so she swallowed hard and quit beating around the bush about how she acquired the potion. "Someone gave it to me." Lizzie's gaze became more damning. "You think Grandma? Just wait a minute." Brita, who gave it to you, and for what reason?" Reaching out for the lifeline Enfira offered, she gave a simple explanation of how she received it from a mysterious person in full plate armor. Lizzie's wrinkled face grew even more wrinkly. "Did you know that there are 3 types of potions?" She didn't wait for Brita's response before continuing. "Some potions are made just with herbs. These don't have instantaneous effects. They basically work by enhancing humans' natural healing processes. They aren't terribly effective, but they are extremely cheap. Next are potions made with herbs and magic. These take effect more quickly than the ones I just mentioned, but they still take some time. Adventurers often drink these after a battle when they have more time. Lastly, there are potions that use only magic. They are made by infusing alchemical solutions with spells. They take effect immediately and can work just as well as spells would. Of course, you pay for it. This one you brought me dosen tea have any herbal sediment. So we can assume it was created entirely with magic. But Lizzie picked up a potion bottle full of blue liquid and thrust it at Brita.